Nobody likes working with an arsehole. And yet, well, most of us do, at least some of the time. I've worked in a company for over a decade that I think does a fantastic job of not hiring arseholes, and it really shows. We don't talk about it in these terms, of course. We refer to things like looking for people that fit the culture. But deep down, what we mean is, I think, we don't hire arseholes. Now, when people hear about this search for culture fit, they rightly enough worry that this might mean a lack of diversity, that we just hire people like us, people that look like us. And there is certainly that danger. And this is why I tend to express it the other way around. Rather than saying we're hiring for people that fit the culture, I say it my way, just don't hire arseholes. So what is an arsehole? You might have heard of the receptionist test. The name's a bit dated now, but the idea is kind of still helpful. So the idea here was that when someone arrived for an interview, physically arrived in the office, they would be greeted by someone, so we call them the receptionist, and this would be their first hurdle. It's not a trick, there's nothing tricksy here, it's just regular politeness is what we expect, normal human decency. So if the candidate arrives and they're polite and respectful to the receptionist, they've passed that first test. If they're rude to them, we probably don't want to hire them. Okay, nowadays people tend not to physically come to the office for the job, but the same kind of principle applies. If you can't be polite and respectful to the recruiter or the most junior person you encounter in your hiring process, we don't want to work with you. And that's what I think it comes down to. When you're interviewing a candidate for a role at any level, you are presumably going to be working with them if they join, or at the very least, you know your colleagues will end up working with them. So the main question you should be asking yourself is, do I want to work with this person? And that should not be a high bar. It's not about them looking like you or sounding like you. It's about them being a regular, decent member of the human race. It doesn't mean they can't be having a bad day. They can't be awkward or grumpy or nervous or shy. None of that makes an arsehole. You might wonder, why does this even need to be said? Well, I think in the world of software engineering, there's this idea of the 10x engineer, the super genius who can come into any environment and have 10 times as much impact as any normal engineer. First of all, I think that's nonsense, but more importantly, I think it has become an excuse that we use for poor behavior. I bet you've come across people like this, the arsehole that everyone tolerates because they're such an amazing programmer. It's a bit unfair of me to pick on software engineers in particular, but I do feel like it is kind of more true in our world than it is in other disciplines. Perhaps it's because someone like, say, a project manager that pisses off all their colleagues isn't going to last very long, no matter how good their Gantt charts are. And another point, software engineering is not all about writing code. In fact, it isn't even really mostly about writing code. In pretty much any engineering role, whether you're junior, senior, or in between, the code that's being written is touched by other people and it touches other people and their code. And so in any healthy organization, software engineers spend more time and energy on communication of various kinds than writing code. So this means conversations, design docs, other kinds of documentation, code reviews, daily stand-ups, etc., etc. The point is that being a good communicator is a really key part of being a good software engineer. And all it takes to be a good communicator, in the sense that I mean it here, is to not be an arsehole. It takes caring about your colleagues and the effect that your work has on them. I don't mean to imply that you have to be a native speaker of a particular language, or, for example, if you have a speech impediment or other communication difficulties, you can't be a good software engineer. It's not about that. It's just about finding a way that works for you and your team to communicate the things that need to be communicated and doing it in a way that doesn't belittle anyone or make life harder for them in any other way. That's all it takes not to be an arsehole. It's a really low bar, and yet it amazes me how often supposedly great engineers don't pass this bar. So how do you avoid hiring arseholes in the first place? Well, this is why I think it's helpful to have candidates go through multiple interviews. I realize this can be onerous, but I think it's really important. Partly it's about making sure the person really does have the skills and experience for the role, of course, although honestly you can never really tell that just from interviews alone. And that's why it's more actually about making sure that they will be someone you want to work with. You might end up working with them for 10 years. How does that make you feel? I have personally worked with my fair share of arseholes over the years, and that's what made the difference between a job being enjoyable and a job being a nightmare. If you ask me, the people you work with make more of a difference than the exact projects you work on or the tasks you have within those projects. Those do matter, of course, but in the long term, it's the people that matter the most. But let me be clear, this is not about rejecting people because you don't think they'll fit in. It's not about hiring people that are the same age, gender, religion, political views, body type, sexuality, neurotypicality as you and your colleagues. Diversity is important. No, it's just about rejecting arseholes. One of the things that I find surprises engineers when they first take on management or leadership responsibilities is just how hard it is, how complicated and messy and difficult people are. I often say computers are easy, people are hard. To find out what I mean by that, check out the video that's on screen now. And if you found this video useful, please do check out some of my other videos or even subscribe to the channel. And if you have thoughts on what I've said in this video, please do share them in the comments below, particularly if you disagree with what I've said. I'd love to hear from you. Bye. See you soon.